Not a visual person and having a hard time wrapping your mind around how memory techniques can work for you? After all, how is a memory palace supposed to work if you can't see images in your mind? Well, whether you're low on the visual scale like me or have a full-blown aphantasia, I've got 7 simple memory tricks that involve the memory palace for you. They will help you create and use memory palaces fast. Now, there's going to be some people who will still insist that they can't do any of these, so stick around for the final tip. Few, if any, can't find an excuse for this final tip I'll share. Let's get started. Hi there, this is Anthony Metivier from MagneticMemoryMethod.com, where I help mature learners of every age take mental adventures using memory techniques. Our community helps you make learning easy, effective, elegant, and fun. So hit that subscribe button now and enable notifications with the bell icon. That way, you won't miss a thing, especially our live streams where you can hang out, ask questions, and meet the valuable members of the Magnetic Memory Method community. And while you're subscribing, and even if you're already subscribed, hit that thumbs up and let's go. Now, it's true, I don't really see pictures in my mind. Although it's not true that I see nothing at all. If anything, I find what I do see almost useless, if not distracting. When I tell my memory athlete friends this fact, they either know exactly what I mean, use some of the same processes I'm about to share, or are purely visual in some sense. If you know the Magnetic Memory Method podcast, you may have heard some of these conversations before. If not, I recommend you listen to some of them. I've learned a ton that has improved my memory practice, and even re-listening to some of them will help your practice too. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what others do in their minds because each of us experiences only one mind, the mind we've been blessed with. And what a blessing indeed, unless you decide not to make it the most incredible experience it can be. But I understand that some people currently have miserable experiences, and not being able to use memory techniques must be very miserable indeed. So if you can't see images in your mind, here's the first memory trick that will help you find more memory palaces and use them. 1. What do you hear? Think about a familiar place. Take your school, for example. When I think purely about sound, I hear the voice of Mr. Andrews. Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. He used to say this every time we were supposed to hand in our homework. I have an idea of what the classroom looked like, and since he was a big fellow, I have a general sense of his physical presence. But it's his voice that really stands out. Likewise, I think of my various band teachers and can even place where different sections of the orchestra were in the different rooms without needing to render a visual picture. There is a way to turn this into a picture that requires zero visualization, but we'll get to that soon. For now, is this a cool memory trick or what? The more you focus just on sounds, the more you'll explore powerful dimensions of your memory that will make a huge difference, especially in connection with the video I've created for you on mining your autobiographical memory for more memory palaces. 2. What do you feel? Let's go for something soft with this exercise. When I completed this exercise, I thought of my Cheshire Cat. I've had 2 in my life. Once from when I visited Disneyland around age 10, and one my mom sent me just a few years ago to fill in the gap. I had to get rid of the old one during one of my epic moves around the globe. Thanks, Mom! Now, in terms of the memory palace this brings to mind, it's not Disneyland, though I have used parts of the park as a memory palace. Rather, in this case, I think of the plane ride home. Now, you might think that an airplane is not great memory palace material. Au contraire, and we'll talk about using them one day soon. Make sure you're subscribed for when that day comes. Anyhow, I have this vague memory of being a 10-year-old hugging the Cheshire Cat, and there are physical sensations related to flying that come to mind. Suddenly, all kinds of flights emerge, and now I've got oodles of airplane memory palaces to work with. Memory exercises like these are the closest thing to real magic that exists, don't you think? 3. What do you think conceptually? Now, this one is a bit of a stretch, but stretching is good. Start with one of the most basic concepts, truth. What comes to mind when you think of the truth? I think of libraries. And when I think of libraries, a ton of them come to mind. In fact, I've worked in 3 of them and studied in dozens more. Each make great memory palaces. Next, I think of a concept like justice. Well, it's true. During high school, I once wound up in the drunk tank. It sucked back then, but makes for an interesting memory palace now. And I took law in high school and observed a few court cases too. I had a friend who was a lawyer before he went to the great memory palace in the sky, and he comes to mind too, all from thinking about the concept of justice. The concepts of math, chemistry, weather, all bring multiple associations, and not a single one of them can be seen visually, strictly speaking. They're just concepts. And thinking about Einstein for math, Breaking Bad for chemistry, and a meteorologist I know named Dave doesn't require me to make mental images either. 4. How does it smell? How does it taste? I'll bet at least one person in your family has some kind of secret recipe. And even if it isn't secret, there's something they make really well that you adore. Now, although I can't eat a large number of things I used to love, my mom's zucchini bread comes to mind, my dad makes a mean spaghetti, and since we moved around a lot, quite a few kitchens come to mind. Then I think of a few romantic meals I've had over the years in places ranging from the CN Tower in Toronto to the Pizzeria Monte Carlo in Rome. Even as someone who isn't a foodie, there are oodles of tastes and aromas that come to mind all around the world. Fruit juices and dates in Cairo, lingonberry jam in Sweden, dumplings in Beijing, all wonderful memory palaces just waiting to be unlocked from memory. I'll bet you have dozens of options. 5. Can you unvisualize your memory palaces? Let me answer that question for you. Unless you're dead set against it, lazy, or uninterested in the most miraculous memory tool in the universe, the answer is yes. All you have to do is draw your memory palaces. Instead of trying to juggle space in your mind, make it simple. Rather than trying to imagine the rooms and hallways and garages and driveways and all kinds of things that you might not be able to see clearly in your mind, break it down into simple squares on paper. When I first encountered memory techniques and the memory palace, I couldn't fathom how on earth I was supposed to see myself moving through a building I wasn't in. And that's a very good thing, because the strange explanations I was reading prompted me to solve this issue for myself. I got my head out of the books written by memory competitors, and I went deep into the history of these techniques. And reading between the lines of text like the Ad Horinum, I discovered that they weren't really talking about visualizing memory palaces. And the notion of making them tactile and strategizing them before using them gave me the idea to make them tactile in the simplest and easiest way you can, with pencil and paper. And as soon as I got results from doing this, I couldn't stop exploring just how many buildings I had visited in my mind and making them visual simply by drawing squares on paper. Now, there are a few more pivotal little points I've discovered along the way, and you can learn about these in my free memory improvement kit. So if you're watching this and are still uncertain of how to create well-formed memory palaces and want some simple worksheets that help you unpack your autobiographical memory so you have dozens of memory palaces, just head on over to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. You'll get 4 free videos and 3 ebooks that walk you through everything, and the link is also in the description below. People with no hands can draw memory palaces with their teeth, their feet, or even ask for others to help. I know this is true because I've had correspondence from people who can't move anything but their mouths who have created and used memory palaces by drawing them. So there really are no excuses. Of course, if you don't want to join the great memory tradition, no problem. I don't want to learn how to pack a parachute and jump out of a plane. Some things just aren't for everyone. But if you do and you've ever struggled with the visual element, rest assured that you can use memory techniques and they will work for you, even without seeing pictures in your mind. In fact, due to an interesting turn of events, I wound up competing once at a competition, and I can tell you that there's really no time to create pictures in your mind when the cameras are rolling and the clock is on. It was for me almost purely conceptual, and I was pleasantly surprised by just how well I did, especially as someone completely unprepared and with zero competition practice, history, or particular interest in throwing down the gloves. So even if you are hypervisual, you'll want to consider the advantages of adding these other senses to your memory practice. Thanks as always for the view. Hit that thumbs up, get subscribed to this channel if you aren't already, keep the discussion going in the comments, and until next time, keep yourself magnetic.